Bankrate survey finds that 41% of Americans say inflation is their top economic issue for this 2024 presidential election. Joining us now to discuss the impact of the presidential election and that it will have on the economy, Mark Hamrick, Bankrate senior economic analyst and Washington bureau chief. Mark, good to have you with us. How are you on this election day?
Good to be with you, Chris. I'm doing well.
All right.
You are.
Inflation obviously on many voters' minds, but what other economic concerns do Americans have as we move into this day of decision making?
It's interesting, Chris, because the top three issues identified by the Bankrate survey of Americans ultimately have to do with prices or costs. You mentioned the top economic issue being inflation, but after that is healthcare costs, and after that, number three is affordable housing. So one way or the other, in the Bankrate space being about the economy and personal finances, really it is the cost of things, the lack of affordability of things, the way the prices have escalated. Those are really top of mind times three for American voters.
So what impacts could each candidate's policies have on issues such as inflation, and the job market and the housing market for that regard?
First of all, Chris, I like to point out that there is not a lever in the Oval Office to turn inflation off. If there were, it's a pretty good chance that President Biden would have flipped that lever already, and we wouldn't be talking about this. The main cop on the beat is the Federal Reserve, so we need to have a credible and strong Federal Reserve that is independent. And President Trump has talked about wanting to wield influence over the Fed in a way that would be a historical anomaly. And history has proven that when leaders interfere with their central bank, the results aren't so good. Elsewhere, of course, taxes are also top of mind, and both candidates have talked about addressing tax reform in different ways. The so-called Trump tax cut is due to expire in 2025, and so the composition of the Congress is going to be important if they want to get those tax cuts extended. We know also that Vice President Harris would like to raise taxes on wealthier individuals and also raise corporate taxes.
Talking about the Fed, they're looking like Jerome Powell is set for another rate hike this week as interest rates and things of that nature come lower. Inflation numbers obviously are way down, but again, prices for the consumer are obviously still, in most consumers' estimations, still too high. Grocery store numbers, kitchen table type of issues. So what can be done to combat that? As you said, there's no magic lever in the Oval Office that can be flipped, but it looks from an economy standpoint, you're not going to find a stronger economy world when we are the envy of the entire world. So how do you get those inflation numbers to come match the rest of the health of this economy?
Yeah, well said, Chris. You can do harm as a president, by the way, on the inflation front, either through overly rampant federal spending. We think the tariffs would add to inflation, and mass deportations would not be helpful in that regard. But in terms of the actual solution, 18 straight months now, Chris, we've had wages that are growing above the rate of inflation. So Americans are slowly, not to their satisfaction, clawing back buying power and fiscal responsibility to be attentive to rising federal debt and deficits and doing something about it is a way of ensuring the sustainability of federal spending for the long term. Chairman Powell has said that the current fiscal position of the federal government is not sustainable over the long term.
I was going to say fiscal responsibility. I don't think either party has mastered that.
Right,
not by a long shot. Let me ask you this. Anything that surprised you in the recent Bankrate survey on how Americans view the economy? As we just mentioned, it's the envy of the entire world, but there still is that perception that things are not going well economically.
The number two issue among Republicans is government spending in terms of the economy. And so when one candidate seems to be willing to have much more buildup in the federal debt and deficits, that's a disconnect from what the Republican electorate seems to be asking for. But ultimately, what I think is most interesting about all of this, Chris, is that there is an undercurrent of populism in both campaigns. And so that is what they have in common. It's just how the candidates would answer that is where they obviously go their own ways.
Exactly. We'll see what happens with whoever is elected when we find out, whether it's today, tomorrow, or the end of the week. Mark, thank you so much. Bankrate senior economic analyst and Washington bureau chief. Always good to have you with us, Mark Hamrick. Thank you so much. And stay with CBS New York for our special Election Day coverage. Streaming all day and on CBS 2. Our coverage will begin at 4 p.m. later today. And as far as the mornings go, we'll be on at a special time, 4 a.m. tomorrow morning.